Hi boys and girls! We've nearly done a whole week of story time with Miss Goodman, which is super exciting. I'm really loving still all of the emails that I'm getting telling me how much you're loving story time, which is amazing. So I've got a really good one for you today. I borrowed this one. I borrowed it from Miss Lavelle, who you might know, some of you. So I borrowed her book because it's a really great one. I want you all to think first about if you have ever met a person for the first time and just instantly judged them. It could be judging them on what they look like or how their voice sounds. And think about how you treated that person, only to realise that your first impression wasn't right at all. And perhaps that person now is a really, really good friend of yours. That's what I want us to think about. First impressions in our story today. I want you to think about first impressions. So our story today is this one. It's called Dave the Lonely Monster. Now, I loved how colourful the cover was on this book. So, sit down, grab your reading buddy, and get ready for Dave the Lonely Monster. Once upon a time, in a retirement cave, lived a lonely monster. His name was Dave. There he is. How do you think he looks? Old Dave the monster there. Do you think he looks happy? No? How can you tell? What do you think Dave likes to do? What do you think Dave likes to do in his spare time? Have a look. What makes you think that? What do you think Dave likes to get up to? In his bad old days, he'd been a pest. He'd romped, he'd roared, he'd made a mess. Goodness me, look at young Dave there. What do you think he looks like? Do you think he looks a bit of a menace? A bit of a live wire? Till folks who like things nice and neat and don't like monsters on their street banish Dave to Echo Rock, lonesome as a single sock. Poor Dave. And there he stayed for 6 decades. Just Dave and his guitar, strumming songs no one could hear from dusk to the morning star. How does Dave look now? Compare it to that first page. Look at his face. Do you think it's changed how he feels? Poor Dave. 6 decades. If a decade is 10 years, how long is 6 decades? 1 decade is 10 years. How long is 6 decades? And even worse, the local knights would try to get old Dave to fight by laughing at his toothy grin, his wonky ears and scaly skin. But Dave would never harm a flea. He's not the fighting sort, you see. He'd rather play some rock and roll or take a bath to soothe his soul. Bet you didn't think that was coming. Bet you thought, oh, Dave's a monster. He must be violent and angry and not very nice. Is that true about Dave? Already starting to see that looks aren't always as they seem. Then, one day, as old Dave dozed, a cabbage bopped him on the nose. Then, whack! a beetroot in the eye, and whiz, an aubergine flew by. Then, leaping from behind the gorse, a tiny knight on a hobby horse waved a carrot at the sky. "Prepare to meet your doom," he cried. How do you think Dave's feeling about this little knight? Doesn't look too happy to me. Doesn't look too scary. "How old are you?" the monster gasped. "I'm 6, said Tiny, "since you asked." "My name is Percival the Brave, and you're that fiendish monster, Dave." The monster rubbed his aching head. "Well, that's not very nice," he said. "Don't you know a proper knight is always kindly and polite? And I might look fierce to you. We monstrous beasts have feelings too." Oh, can you see? What's Dave doing? I think the knight, has he upset him? What did he say that upset him? Would you get upset if someone spoke that way to you? Percy hadn't thought of that. He stopped and stared, subdued, then blushed down his boots and said, "I'm sorry I was rude." So Percy took a knightly pledge to give up throwing rotten veg, and by the time the week had ended, what do you think they're going to be like on the next page? Before the time the week had ended, knight and beast were best befriended. Oh, yes. Have a look at both of their faces. How do you think they're feeling about things now? Does Dave still look upset after his 60 years? I don't think so. Why isn't he upset anymore? Tell whoever you're sitting with. They shared a taste in Monster Rock, took a spin around the block, watched the jousting on TV. At last, old Dave had company. Life's always better with a bit of company. But back in town across the bay, folks got grumpier by the day. Tranquility had reigned for years, and everyone was bored to tears. Can you remember when we read The Sea of Tranquility the other day? What does tranquility mean? Tranquility had reigned for years, and everyone was bored to tears. They sighed, "You know what would be smashing? A good old-fashioned monster bashing. Why don't we make a day of it? Now that should perk us up a bit." Oh no, I can see what's coming. All of these bored people. They're going to take it out on poor Dave. And so they grabbed some mushy fruits, some rotten veg and mouldy roots, and headed out to Echo Rock, where Dave was knitting winter socks. Just as they were taking aim, a furious knight with eyes aflame came charging through the smelling crowd. "Knock it off!" he cried aloud. "What's this nonsense? Can't you behave? Is that any way to treat old Dave?" Who's sticking up for him here? "He may rock out from time to time, but is that such a dreadful crime? Now chuck out those potato peelings and spare a thought for old Dave's feelings." The townsfolk all felt mighty humbled. "You didn't mean it, Dave," they mumbled. How do you think they're feeling right now? Do you think they're still feeling the need to take it all out on Dave, the good old-fashioned monster bashing? Or do you think they're feeling ashamed? Do you think they're feeling sad that they would have even thought about it? Dave smiled and shook his massive head. If you really want some fun, he said, then put away the salad bar and let me fetch my bass guitar. Oh, what is going to happen here? What is Dave going to do to entertain the people? Oh. And so they went down to the cave and had themselves a monster rave. They danced and sang and danced some more, bust some moves on Dave's dance floor, had a riot, learned to jive, and got monster in their lives. So, old Dave got his groove back on and was alone no more, thanks to a fiercely gentle knight who knew that he would rather fight for love and peace, not war. That's the end. So, who are you gonna be? Are you going to be like our fabulous brave knight, fighting for love and peace instead of war? I want you to think of one thing, only one, that you can do between our next story time to fight for love and peace in the world. Maybe it's just saying something kind to someone around you. Maybe it's giving someone a compliment. Maybe it's trying to make someone feel included who hasn't been included before. Maybe you can think of someone right there in your head. How can you fight for love and peace? Don't fight for war. I look forward to tomorrow's story time. See you then.